It is now 7 o'clock, and I'll call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Beloit City Council. We're here at 100 State Street, Beloit, Wisconsin, in the City Hall Forum, and today is Monday, March 16th, 2015. Can I have a roll call?
Roll call shows all councilors present.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. We have none this evening. Item 4 is public hearings. 4A.
An ordinance amending the future land use map of the City of Beloit Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use designation of the property located at 1715 Elmwood Avenue from planned neighborhood to mixed residential. The Plan Commission recommended approval, 5-0.
Ms. Christensen.
This application has been before you before. Plan Commission did recommend denial of this application on July 9th. City Council then reviewed the application on August 18th and referred it back to Plan Commission for further review. This was due to the fact that there was a concept plan, which is included in your packet, which was handed out that evening, and you felt like Plan Commission should have that in hand before they rendered their opinion. We did look at an option of conditional zoning, which we had used many years ago, and the Attorney's Office felt that that was not the appropriate way to go, so we just processed it, moved it forward. We brought it before Plan Commission at their last meeting, and they did recommend approval of the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning piece. They did discuss it at great length, and they felt that, I think because of it being on Elmwood Avenue, the development further to the north had been denied in the past with concerns of traffic kind of jetting through the neighborhood. When the council had a workshop on development in this area, that was a concern. And because any development that occurred here would need a planned unit development or a land division where the council and Plan Commission could require the dedication of the street, Plan Commission did recommend approval of both this item, the comprehensive plan amendment, as well as the next item on your agenda, which is the actual rezoning to R3 low-density multifamily.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing on item 4A. If anyone wishes to speak on item 4A, please approach the podium at this time.
Hi, my name is Frank McKern. I'm with Batterman Engineering and Surveying. I'm here tonight to answer any questions you may have. I've worked with the fellow that owns the property for the last, I lose track of the time, it's probably 7 or 8 years. So just here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at the public hearing on item 4A? If so, please approach the podium. Second call for anyone else wishing to speak on item 4A. And third and final call for anyone wishing to speak on item 4A. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions? Councilor DeForest.
I don't have a question, but I guess I have a comment. I know when the City Council rejected multifamily units in the past in this area, which is true, one of the concerns was traffic, but one of the other concerns was rental density. And I am still concerned about rental density in this area, and so I would ask my colleagues to consider not approving this change because we have too many concentrated rental units in this area. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lubke.
Frank, it's my understanding if this does go through, it will help it. Well, that road would go through and connect with Elmwood and help the traffic flow to the current apartments and condos that are back on Cadillac.
Yeah, kind of the, if you indulge me for a minute to go through some of the history as I understand it. The property owners to the north wanted, I don't know the particulars, but they wanted to do something, a development of some sort, and a concern was that there would really like to be the extension of Cadillac Drive to the south down to Elmwood. They didn't have control over the property that's in front of you tonight, but word got through to me that I relayed to the current property owner that it would be nice if that road were to be dedicated, and kind of a long conversation with all the parties involved. The current owner of the property has been trying to develop and market the property as single family. He's been unsuccessful doing that. So his thought was, well, if I could get the property rezoned to multifamily, he's had some people approach him in the past about that. That would make sense to him, get a developer on board, get this right of way dedicated, kind of solve two issues at one time.
It's my understanding, and I've been out there several times, but a lot of the traffic going back to those apartments cuts through those neighborhoods and increases the traffic and sometimes the speed, and as well.
That is
Right.
what has been explained to me as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Christensen, I have a question. If, barring somebody proposing to build a single multifamily building on this site, my understanding is this would have to go through the PUD process. What kind of flexibility would that give the council if that were to happen in terms of regulating the density, if there were concerns about how many units somebody wanted to build on the site?
As part of a planned unit development, that's one of the things that you look at. So it's one of the things you condition is the density level that will be allowed on site. So you have complete control over the density. You're actually, as part of a planned unit development, you actually are approving a master land use plan for the site. So you're actually approving how the buildings are laid out. So you're explicitly saying what density is allowed.
And as part of that process, would we also be able to require that Cadillac Drive be extended to Elmwood?
Yes.
And if that were to happen, it looks like there would be a strip on the east side of Cadillac Drive that would have to have some sort of either single-family homes or smaller development or not be developed because it would be separated from the
Yeah,
main unit.
He's actually not requesting, this rezoning actually doesn't include that piece. So he is planning to either have single-family or two-family buildings on the east side of Cadillac.
And then the west piece would be open for some sort of planned unit development.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Excuse me. And looking at the map, I would just like to emphasize to my colleagues, there are already two apartment complexes, one contiguous to this parcel of land and one parcel over. And it's not good planning practice to concentrate apartment buildings in a very small area in a neighborhood. Some of the concerns that we heard from the single-family neighbors before was that concern about this rental density. So I just hope that we would consider that.
Councilor Kincaid.
Do I understand then that if the developer came in with the maximum number of units allowed under the zoning ordinance, the council would have the opportunity to say, no, we want to see a lot less?
If there's more than one building, yes, you would have that opportunity.
So they do have they are able to construct a high-rise for all those units?
On one parcel, yes. No one will do that.
Seem unlikely, but...
It's unlikely, yes. Yeah, we have a height limit.
One other question. When this comes back, if and when it comes back to the city council, will the public have an opportunity to testify or
Yes.
express their opinion at a public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, this is on the agenda to suspend the rules for second reading, although of course that's up to the will of the council, but that motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Moved by Lupke, second by Kincaid to suspend the rules. Is there discussion on suspending the rules? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Ms. Christensen, has a sign been placed on this site to alert neighbors to let them know that this is up for rezoning so they're aware of it? Okay, I would then ask that we not suspend the rules and make sure that we give the neighbors some time to come forward if they'd like to. I don't understand the need for expediting it.
Councilor Kincaid.
Isn't notice required by a code or not?
This was not renoticed because you already had your public hearings and it was referred back without the request to renotice it as a public hearing. I mean, I shouldn't have had this on the agenda as a public hearing, I just realized that today. So it was not renoticed, so.
Counselor
I mean,
Kelly?
this particular item, sorry, this particular item is a comprehensive plan amendment, so it does not require individual notification. But the zoning piece, when I was looking through the packet today, I noticed that the notice is from before your last meeting, so it was not renoticed.
So,
How long has this application
Can I-
been active? How long has this been active?
It was back before, it was in the council in August. Yes.
did notices go out when they went to plan?
No, I just realized that today. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had it on here this way. But I just realized it today. It shouldn't have been on your public hearing agenda. It should have came just back as reports,
Oh, got it.
or ordinances, sorry.
It would,
I mean, if you want to not suspend the rules, and, yeah, I mean, within that time period, we can put the sign up
Counselor
for the
Kincaid?
rezoning piece.
understand then that there is no urgency on this, and it would seem to me that, especially because the neighbors expressed interest, and a legitimate interest, I think, that we should give them every opportunity to hear about it.
I would certainly, given that the last time this came before us, it was on a recommendation of denial, is that correct? So neighbors might not have come forward on the assumption that we were going to deny it, and obviously we didn't approve it at that time, so I would be in favor of putting the sign up and delaying this for 2 weeks. Counselor DeForest?
Thank you. That was the statement I wanted to make as well. And I would appreciate a sign on the parcel of land. Thank you.
The motion is on suspending the rules. Is there further discussion on that motion? All right. Do you want to take a vote?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just vote on the motion to suspend the rules, which is on the table. So if we don't want to do that, just vote no. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. No. All right, that motion fails. Do we need a motion now to lay this over, or does
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So,
Move to lay this over.
moved by Haynes, is there a second? Second by DeForest. Any discussion? Hearing none, and with the understanding that the sign will go up between now and the next meeting, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That is approved 7-0. And I believe that makes item 4B moot. Do we need a motion to lay that over as well?
Yes.
Moved and seconded to lay over item 4B. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's approved 7-0.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, just so I can report back to the property owner, you will take action at this at the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And will be, the neighbors will be notified, or they won't be?
Put a sign on the property.
Okay, so mailings won't go out, it's just the sign.
I believe that's,
Okay, so the next council meeting is, it'll be back on the agenda, and this council will be ready to make a vote up or down.
that is my understanding, and for any members of the public that are interested, obviously, at the next meeting, it would be after citizens' participation portion of the meeting on the agenda, so if anyone wishes to speak, even though there wouldn't be a public hearing, there would be an opportunity to speak before the vote on that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. And that brings us to citizens' participation. We've reached the point on the meeting for members of the public to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. The council will not act on any requests this evening unless the item you are speaking about is already on our agenda, but we may act on requests at a future meeting, or we may refer speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and avoid making personal attacks. I do have 2 sheets here of people wanting to speak, and I'm guessing that one of them is you, so the podium is yours, and please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Anea Frazier.
And I'm Erin Hudson.
We're here on behalf of Beloit Memorial Nightingales and the Minority Excellence Organization to introduce our 4th annual HBCU College Tour. Our first 3 tours were a huge success. As a result of our efforts, we have past students currently attending historical Black colleges and universities, such as Harris-Stowe University, Howard University, Central State University, Lane College, Jackson State University, North Carolina A&T State University, Grambling University, Alabama A&M University, and several of them even went on academic scholarships. It is because of this that we know this extending learning opportunity will continue to be effective in encouraging minority students to pursue post-secondary education.
The 106 historically Black colleges and universities, while comprising only 3% of the nation's 3,688 institutions of higher learning, are responsible for producing approximately 23% of all bachelor's degrees. Over 50% of African Americans who graduate from HBCUs go on to graduate or professional schools. HBCUs contributes to the continuing rise of Black intellectuals, professionals, and creative artists, which is so evident throughout the American society, even here in Beloit. HBCUs graduate over 50% of African American professionals, 50% of African Americans in public school teachings, and 70% of African American dentists. HBCUs all award more than 1 in 3 of the degrees held by African Americans in natural sciences.
The Rising Knights HBCU College Tour, which will take place from March 25th to April 1st, strives to stimulate an interest among selected students in attending one of the 106 public or privately supported HBCUs. The long-term objective of this project is to develop ways and means to assure our B and HS students are qualified students and to be familiar with the historical mission of Black colleges and universities and to see the broad range of high qualities of the educational programs and academic fields. We will be attending 6 HBCUs, Tuskegee University, Alabama State University, Spelman College, Morehouse College, and Clark Atlanta University. They will receive enhanced awareness of academic programs, entrance requirements, career opportunities, social and emotional support mechanisms, and financial resources offered by HBCUs. The trip will also include times where the youth will be able to see most popular sites and attractions in the area, as well as participate in community service project Books for Africa.
Each student was asked to pay $600. Which helps towards busing, lodging, entertainment, attractions, and daily breakfast. But that amount equals only to a little over half the entire cost. Our organization is dedicated to the process of making this trip happen, but we need your help. Your donations will bring us closer to our goal of $20,000. Many businesses and community leaders such as you are on the board as well. Our community is clearly excited and eager to see this project succeed. You can be a part of the excitement by supporting our youth with a donation in your denomination of your choice. We realize that there are a lot of charitable organizations to which you can give, but I hope that you will consider giving these students the gift of education this year. Your tax-deductible donations is an investment in our collective future.
We would like to thank you for considering this opportunity to present tonight. And if you have any questions regarding the organization, how to donate, or the project itself, please feel free to refer back to our coach, Regina Hendricks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a sheet from Art Lefebvre. Please approach the podium.
Good evening,
Good evening.
councilmen and council ladies. I'm kind of like a high school kid that gave his first speech, where he came up to the podium and he hung onto the podium. He says, "When I wrote this speech, only God and I know what was in it." And he looked around and said, "Now only God knows." I made some notes. My primary goal is not to make personal attacks, But I suggest that the city manager and this council, with the exception of Sheila DeForest, have been a little behind on the curve on the violence in the city. During my early years, I had I guess I call it a desire to study Western history. And you cannot read the Beloit Daily News and almost compare it to Dodge City. Very seldom you pick up the paper where houses aren't getting shot up, where you're not finding empty casings all over the street. And I understand it's probably just, as I understand it, just kind of a close circle of individuals involved in these. And I've heard the statement, they're not random acts, but bullets are random. Whoever it is, and I think probably the chief and a lot of the officers probably know who a lot of these individuals are, but bullets are random. And I fear sooner or later, somebody outside this circle of hoodlums that are doing the majority of the shooting is going to get struck. So I want to commend Sheila. I know she's argued for more resources for public safety. I want to commend the Beloit Daily News, because I think that editorial maybe made us all sit back and think. But I truly believe the biggest issue facing this council and this city is the violence that's occurring. I had a couple other things to say. I don't know where my 3 minutes are. Oh, yeah, I guess, and I understand Chief Jacobs' reluctance to say, you give me more resources, give me more men, and I can turn this around. Because I think he'd be foolish to say that. But at the same time, we'd be foolish not to give more resources for public safety in the city of Beloit. I'm tickled to death that the sheriff is putting some resources in. And it's probably our fault as citizens not coming forward. But again, I fear that one of these times we're going to read the paper and there's going to be one or two individuals outside this circle of individuals that are shooting one another, and somebody else is going to get struck. And I hate to have that happen. Is there anything else I want to say? I guess I could say I know that there's been a reluctance to come up with resources, but I know you guys came up with, and I don't know how much it is for the study we're going to have. And I hope, well, first of all, I want to say I'm up here only representing myself. I'm familiar, and I know many people in the law enforcement community. But I hope that whoever does this study and this council goes forward gingerly so that the morale and the troops in the city of Beloit aren't harmed by this survey or this study. I spent a few years at the sheriff department, and I know if you live through two individuals running for sheriff at the same time, it's hard to keep your mind on what you're there to do. And I fear that I don't want to see that happen at the Beloit Police Department. So I'm not here to lambaste anybody. I'm just here to state my opinion. I truly believe that the violence in the city of Beloit is your number one priority in this coming year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak tonight during citizens' participation? If so, please approach the podium. Second call for anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' participation. Third and final call for anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' participation. Seeing none, we'll close citizens' participation. Item 6 is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Is there any councilor wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda will consist of items 6A through E. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Moved by Lubke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kelly. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. Item 7 is ordinances. We have none. Item 8 is appointments. We have none. Item 9 is councilor activities and upcoming events. Councilor Lupke.
Just want to congratulate our city manager for getting the Headliner a Year award at the Chamber of Commerce dinner last week. That's really an honor for all of us, but it shows what a decade of hard work will do for our city, and this is what was recognized at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I would like to thank Mary Garza, who is with our transit division. She received a commendation for excellent customer service, and I'm so proud that we have these incredible employees that work with the city that go above and beyond. So thank you to Mary at Transit. I would also like to thank 2 employees who are moving on, and they will be sorely missed. One is Beth Jacobson, who is our assistant city manager, and wish her good luck in her endeavors and thank her for all the wonderful work that she's done as the assistant city manager. And then also to Monica Grostaupa, who did incredible things with Visit Beloit to really promote the city of Beloit, some very creative, exciting things that were done, and so I'm sad to see both of them leave. I would like to just share that one of the highlights for me since the last city council meeting was attending Book Quest at Aldridge Middle School, and which is a competition, a literacy competition among students who read books, and it was so wonderful to put those medals around the students' necks and to see them beaming for reading the books that they had. So one of the books this year was A Wrinkle in Time, one of my favorites from when I was a kid. So I would like to thank especially the librarians at the Beloit Public Library who work very, very hard to organize that event. We just have incredible city staff and privileged to, to have such fantastic folks providing services to our residents. Thank you.
Councilor Kincaid.
I want to thank goodness we have daylight savings time back. I agree with everything else we've talked about, but it's really important. Now, what we have to look forward to now is the first day of spring. It won't be long, so let's hang in there, folks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Hendricks.
I too want to congratulate and wish well Beth Jacobson and Monica. I'm on the Visit Beloit Board of Directors with Monica, so it's a little more tough for me to see her go, her energy and excitement and creativity that she brings to the board and the city. So we wish them well, but we hate to see them go. And then next week, I will be heading out with 28 children that are not my own. We'll be heading down to Alabama and Atlanta, Georgia, for the HBCU college tour that the 2 young ladies spoke about. And we are still accepting donations. That we do have a site online that you can give, as well as we are accepting donations through the school. Checks can be made out to Beloit Memorial High School, and then in the memo, HBCU college tour. So any little bit helps. We're going regardless, of what money that we raise. Say they have done a great job raising money so far, but we've seen this trip produce so many exceptional students. Well, exceptional students went on the trip, which makes the trip a success. And I love to see what they're doing while they're there, and hopefully some of them will come back like I did, make a difference. Thank you.
Councilor Kelly.
Well, I also had the opportunity to see Larry being honored at the chamber dinner, and they had a great turnout. It was a great event. And the forum, I was here to watch the forum, and it just had terrible memories of being here doing the forum myself. And I felt for all of them as they were sitting here just answering questions that coming out of left field. But they all did great, much better than I ever did or ever could do. So that's it.
Vice President Haynes.
I have nothing to add today.
I also had a chance to attend the Book Quest presentation, and that definitely was a wonderful event to promote reading for our kids, and also had a chance to attend the chamber dinner, and wanted to extend my congratulations to Larry on the headliner award, and to echo other counselors' comments also in wishing Beth Jacobson and Monica Christopa well. Since it is coming up in relatively short order, and Councilor Kelly just mentioned, I wonder if the city clerk could just remind the public when Election Day is and what the hours for that are.
Election Day is Tuesday, April 7th, and all the polling locations are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And if people aren't going to be around on that day, when can they come in and vote at City Hall?
They can vote absentee in person starting on Monday the 23rd through Friday, April 3rd. One point, Friday, April 3rd, City Hall will actually be closed for the spring holiday, but we will still be available to assist with absentee voting and registering for the election. We'll just be on the first floor instead of the second floor, just on the 3rd.
Thank you. Item 10 is City Manager's presentation, 10A.
The Police Department Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation.
Chief Jacobs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes talking about our upcoming accreditation that we're going through. Accreditation is coming March 22nd through the 25th, which is just a week away, and we're working on our files feverishly to get everything accomplished before our assessors come in. They'll be coming in from North Carolina and Florida this time to be reviewing the activities to make sure that we're doing what we say that we can do. What is CALEA? CALEA is the Commission of Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. How does it work? It began in 1979. It was voluntary, a commitment from everybody involved, and the founding agencies were the Police Executive Research Forum, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the National Sheriff's Association, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Our preparation for CALEA began in 1990. We were accredited for 5 years at that time. Then every 3 years after that, we are re-accredited. This is our 8th time for 2015 that we'll be trying for. Purpose of accreditation is the delivery of public safety services and maintaining a body of standards developed by public safety practitioners. Law enforcement was one of the few professional organizations that didn't have set standards and a body of knowledge anywhere, and that's what CALEA was started to do. The program is voluntary, and that's what I tell myself every time we're challenged by the assessors, time, and money. It's a voluntary commitment, and I'm reminded it each time, but that's what makes it so special to us. Now, what are the standards? The standards tell us what is important, not how to do things. There's 6 major areas for those standards. For instance, under role, that includes our use of force policies. Under organization, the responsibilities and supervision in the department. Under personnel, it involves compensation and conditions of work as examples. Under operations, our criminal investigations are in that area. Under detainee, that's our holding facility, and I can report today that we received our 1-year report from the state, and our holding facility met all of the standards of the state, and there were no violations, which is quite a challenge to our staff at the department, being that we house approximately 700 people a year there over a very short period, and we have to follow almost the same rules that jails have to follow. Captain Tyler oversees that program. And the auxiliary section involves communication and records. For example, here's one of the chapters, Chapter 70. It talks about detainee transportation. It is a requirement that officers search a detainee before being transported, and we have to examine before and after each shift the vehicles that the persons are transported in. That's just a simple thing. What it involves safety for our officers and the people who are in those cars. Now, there's 486 CALEA standards to follow. We follow 387 of them because of our size. We also are a member of the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Accreditation Group, where we have to follow 45 standards that are specific to Wisconsin. For instance, we have, at the scene of a crime or a crash where a person has passed away, we have to check whether the person is an organ donor, because that's a law specific to Wisconsin. The Wiley Egg persons will be in on next Friday to review our files on that. Now, the agency size, we're generally a small agency, but we still have to follow a number of standards. So why are we doing this? So we're doing it for international excellence, accountability, liability, protection against civil lawsuits, support of yourselves as government officials, and transparency, which leads to legitimacy. And legitimacy is the big word that the big word in law enforcement that's coming up. I'll give you an example of one of the benefits of accreditation, something as simple as body armor that we've been using for many years. There's a lot of police departments that don't require their officers to wear body armor. Officers are still dying in the United States because they don't wear it, but that's where a standard came that we purchased body armor for our officers. The same as portable radios came about because of CALEA. Another example is storage and security. There's standards to be met about how evidence should be stored so that you have successful prosecution. For instance, we have a chain link area inside our Bay 1 that we put vehicles that we need in homicide investigations, for instance. But our assessors came in and told us that wasn't good enough. We had to add special security over the top of the chain link so that we could prove nobody has climbed over that to get in and damage evidence. Those are all standards that help keep us a better police department. The cost of being a CLIA accredited, as compared with our $11.5 million budget, is about the same as we spend on laundering uniforms, take care of postage, and clean our blankets that we use in our jail areas. $4,500 a year. Our on-site assessment is coming up, like I said, the 22nd through the 25th. The assessors attend briefings, they ride along with the officers, they interview personnel on specific chapters. It's normal that they'll ask us to repair some files and make some policy adjustments. It's unusual after doing this 7 times that they still find things in our policies that can be improved on, and that goes with the profession. As things improve, they ask us to improve. Now, you can be involved with this assessment as the public can. There's a listening session right here in the forum on March 23rd, beginning at 3 p.m. It's scheduled till 4:30. It could go longer. And yourselves or citizens in the community can come to speak about the police department, specifically to the areas that I mentioned before that they are looking at. Also, persons can call an assessor between 12:30 and 2:30. That number is 364-6808. If you missed that, we can give that to you at the police department. And with that, do you have any questions about our CALEA process?
Councilor DeForest?
Thank you. Chief Jacobs, I know the CALEA direct cost is $4,500, but how much officer time is committed to this project?
Let's see. About 420 hours.
And in which position, is it one officer that is committed, or is it several? And
when we do file maintenance, this time we had 4 officers doing it. 2 of the officers were on light duty assignments. They weren't assigned to patrol cars, so we use them for accreditation. And oftentimes, or unfortunately, oftentimes, that's what we use our officers who aren't able to work out on the streets for.
Okay, so just to be clear, there's no patrol time that's pulled off to be committed to the CALEA process?
No, I think this year we did have a patrol sergeant help, and that was because we had 2 sergeants working on that shift, and we want to get more people involved with the process, because the more they're involved, the better they know, and the more they have buy-in into it.
Okay, thank you. And then also, how have you promoted the public listening session so the public knows about it?
On our Facebook page, I believe we did a press release. There was an article in the paper, I believe, last week.
Does CALEA ask that you notify those individuals that have filed informal and formal complaints so that they're aware of when the public listening session is?
No.
Do you think that would be good practice?
No.
Can I ask why?
Because people who have filed complaints usually have complaints on arrests, and each of those complaints are taken care of at the time they make the complaints, but they're welcome to come and talk about them, that's for sure. Everybody is welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the chief?
If I could take a few minutes to give you an update
Sure.
while I'm up here on a few actions.
Please do.
I just want to make sure you know that the East Side Substation is still open 11 to 12 and 5 to 6, 7 days a week. We'll have it open more as time permits. Officer Rummage has applied for the position of a national or the neighborhood resource officer for the East Side, and he's on light duty right now, but he should be back in service in April. And so he will be the NRO on the East Side. In February, Officer Davies was moved from patrol to Assistant Detective Bureau with their caseload, and that's been very successful. We'll do that for a 90-day period, and we'll readjust it if need be in the future. We have asked for assistance from the Sheriff's Department and assigned 7 burglary cases and 3 shots fired cases to the Sheriff's Department and their detective bureau. They've assigned one of their detectives to help us out with those cases. I believe that we publicized 2 Stop the Violence efforts, which were conducted on February 7th and March 5th this year. We had a total of 20 contacts, 24 citations were written. There was a drug interdiction effort on the 9th, March 9th, where 15 citations and a number of arrests were made. In each of those operations, we coordinated with the Sheriff's Department to help us out, having persons on the street, and that was very successful. I've noticed that some persons in the community have said they appreciate the extra sheriff's patrol, and the sheriff and I have talked about it, and for the short term, they're able to help us out. I'm not sure about how long their overtime will be able to handle it, but at least for the short term, the sheriff's been very cooperative about having his units in town for visibility. I know you want to know about the homicide investigations, and I can give you updates on 3 of them. I can't give you a whole lot of details. The Haley homicide, which occurred April 25th in the 2100 block of Newark, we're anticipating some action from the district attorney in March so that we can take some action in April. That means the detectives have reached a point where they provided enough information to the district attorney that we believe that there can be some movement on it. The Royster homicide that occurred on November 23rd in the 1200 block of Copeland, there was some action from the DA in March, we hope. And if so, we should be able to move in April on the Royster homicide. The other homicide was the Hurd homicide of Randall and Porter that occurred on January 19th. We're looking for 1 of 5 persons of interest to interview. There are 5 persons in that incident that knew about it. We've interviewed numerous persons with direct knowledge of the crime, so this isn't a case similar to the Summit Park case where no one has come forward. The detectives right now are pleased with the progress on that case. Now let me address one other thing that happened the other day, and this relates to what Mr. Lefevre mentioned. This was a shooting that occurred on Beloit's east side and in the Merrill neighborhood just within the last couple days. And I talked to the detective captain about it. He called this case the case of a woman, a man, and another man with guns. On March 14th at 9:30 p.m., a suspect shot at a house in the 1300 block of Broad Street. We sent our units there. We gathered evidence, as we always do. Talked with a few persons who didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about the case. On March 15th at 4 p.m., another suspect shot at another man in the 1600 block of Dewey, striking him in the knee with a bullet. We gathered more evidence. Both victims in these incidents knew each other. Both incidents are connected. They're connected by a mutual friend and weapons, which is the same type of incidents that we've had with the other homicides in Beloit. This just didn't turn out to be a homicide. This was a shooting. So this goes on to say it's not a gang activity. It's not something that was planned. It boils down to an argument over relationships, at least allegedly. In good news, we made an offer to 2 recruits the other day, and they accepted employment, and they're going through some further testing. We should get them out on the street, I'm hoping, in a few weeks to do field training. And we have a draft agreement with the WPPA, which is now being reviewed by Human Resources for consideration for a canine handler. I know that all of the things I mentioned you were concerned with. That's why I appreciate you allowing me to update you directly with those items. Do you have any questions about anything that I mentioned?
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Just first with clarification, Officer Davies, who was moved to help the detectives, was she on patrol? Did we move her from patrol to detective?
Well, she is a patrol officer, yes, and we moved her, yes.
It was impossible to move someone that wasn't on patrol? I know the detectives need help, but I'm concerned about the shift from patrol.
Yes, I'm concerned about that also. Detective Davies, or Officer Davies, has experience in a detective bureau because she was at one time our child maltreatment detective. So moving her in there was the best use of that resource because she doesn't need any time to get up to speed on investigations.
Okay. Could you speak to the efforts where they're at in terms of City Council's directive to look at some incentives for individuals that are looking to leave the department or retire, to give us more notice so that we can fill those positions quicker, because we've had this constant issue of positions available and they're left vacant for long periods of time? Are we any closer to coming up with ideas for that?
I asked the union if they could find anywhere in the state that offers incentives to give us more notice, and they said they would look. They weren't aware of any. I can tell you that I have at least one other officer that is considering moving, but it isn't because of the police department. It's because of a family issue, and as soon as they tell me that they're going to be moving, then I act on that. Right now, I have I had 8 potential candidates for employment with the last testing. We've offered for 2, and we're doing background investigations on another 4. So I have a potential now for at least 6 people to be hired in the next few weeks if their testing works out well.
Okay. Have we considered running or testing recruitment cycles more frequently? I know we talked about that as an option as well.
Yes, we've considered it, and we can run them as fast as HR can do them. The issue is that you need candidates that are viable right away. You need, if the best candidates get hired off, so I could run probably a maximum of 3 tests a year, but that takes a lot of administrative time from not only the police department but from Human Resources. And to have candidates sitting in a queue over 3 months, it's unlikely that we're going to get the best candidates. The best tests are run right when the academies are getting out. So I believe last year we did 3 tests also, and that's about the most that I can do.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, to follow up on that, so we are doing 3 tests this year most likely, is that?
We will do 3 tests if I don't get enough candidates from this first one. We may, if we get more persons that are leaving. I don't anticipate a whole lot more, but I honestly don't know. A lot of the younger employees, they'll search for employment elsewhere, and they won't give us but a few weeks' notice, if that. I did have one person come in and told me that he might be leaving in the summer, and that was out of courtesy for the department, so, but we should be able to handle that depending on how these candidates that I have in the queue now test out.
And the 6 that you said we might get out of what you have in the queue now, are those for current vacancies, or is part of that for the anticipated vacancies? Where does that leave us if we get all 6?
Anticipated
Okay.
vacancies, and I hope to hire over, I will hire over, I spoke with Mr. Arf about it, for anticipated vacancies if we get it in writing, if we know someone's retiring. That won't be a problem.
And in terms of what you mentioned about the union checking into whether anywhere else in the country does incentives, have they finished that check-in and they're still looking into that?
Yes.
Can you get us an update on that once you have more information?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the chief? If not, thank you for your presentation. 10B.
It's the city manager's report to the community.
Thank you. Mr. President, again, it's a pleasure to update the community. As we've done traditionally, we schedule this for the meeting following the meeting at which Council President does his State of the City report. This year, we did a little something different because we've been looking at the success of our city center plan and how much has been done both on public infrastructure and public improvements over the last 10 years. So we started putting this research together for our City Center Committee, actually before the first of the year. So we've been working on this for several months. I thought it would be interesting to run through and kind of update the council and the community on the things that have been accomplished in the City Center of Beloit over the last 10 years. The City Center Master Plan was actually prepared initially back in 2005. Schreiber Anderson was the consultant on the project. They were working for Beloit 2020, who covered the cost for the plan. It was also, of course, prepared in conjunction with the City of Beloit, as well as the City of South Beloit and several of the other stakeholders in City Center. The plan created 7 separate districts within the city center to kind of focus how improvements would be done in that entire area, how that would affect the quality of life and the physical infrastructure of the older part of the city of Beloit. And this report highlights both public and private enhancements that have been done over the last 10 years. You're obviously aware of a lot of this stuff, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing, but just go through and mention them. And so we're going to start with the Rock River or Grand Parkway area, which runs immediately adjacent to the Rock River as it goes through the city. These are just some of the upgrades and improvements that have been done going back to 2006, the Taco Bell restaurant project, the Mid-Lawn Pavilions, which were older infrastructure in Riverside Park. That entire area was updated at one time in 2007. Connections, the Riverfront Bike Paths. This happens to be Burton Street, and the new bike path is on the left side. This goes up to the pool, the golf course, the Boys and Girls Club, and provides a linkage back into City Center and back to the Riverside Trail system. New signage, this has since been completed and landscaped. Shoreline stabilization, almost the entire east side or the downwind side of the river has been done. We had extensive deterioration, erosion along there. A lot of the trees along the shoreline were actually falling into the river. Much of that work has been done. You'll see more slides as we go through here showing some of it. This is a piece along the Rock River. You can see the Mid-Lawn Pavilions, and over the years we've used a combination of riprap and natural vegetation. We've still got some fences up in the north end of Riverside Park where we did that natural vegetation. Actually, it'll be 2 years ago, and we've been trying to get that all up and mature before we remove the fences and let the geese and stuff get access to it. This was the Turtle Island project. The City of Beloit put money in this. Beloit 2020 raised most of the funds, and we completely redid the Turtle Island playground. That had been 10 years or so since that had been done. And the Ace Hardware big launch site. You'll see more slides later of the new project in downtown, but this shows you the area, the concept plan for how the big lawn was expanded. The walkway promenade was put in, and that work was done back around the 2009 timeframe. This is South Riverside Park improvements, including the promenade itself and the Big Lawn area, which was dedicated again in 2009. 3rd Street area, we expanded the Riverwalk. There were some older homes in there that were bought over time. Again, that was a joint project of the City of Beloit and Beloit 2020. And the walkway, bike path was extended through there, lighting and some landscaping added. The new Beloit College sign in 2009 at 5181, this was a brownfield site. The college had it under contract for a number of years. Finally got the brownfield cleaned up and they were able to acquire it. And it has a new sign now and landscaping on that corner. Riverside Drive, one of the larger infrastructure projects. We've talked a lot about this over the years. It actually had the look of creating a Parkside Boulevard, lots of green space and landscaping down the middle, decorative lighting, and we also put in improved parking lots as a part of this project and did some other upgrades to Riverside Park. Hard to believe it's been 5 years already. Some of the parking lot construction was put in to support the parks and leisure services operations that are done there. This was the River Bend shoreline stabilization. This was done with federal funding following the flooding in 2008. This was the one low-lying area where we actually had surface flooding, where the river was actually breaking out of its banks. Again, the seawall's been put in, some more riprap has been put in, and this area has been secured so that can't happen again in the future. Ken Hendricks Memorial Bridge, another piece of new infrastructure along the riverside, or along the Rock River. This is a picture from the dedication, the fall of 2012, and the new bridge itself. And you can see the design themes carrying over, style of lighting, the use of the special green color along the infrastructure. Private stuff, Maryland Houston Steakhouse is redone with a historic theme, by the way. If anyone hasn't been in there, you can spend half the night just looking at the photographs. Really some amazing photographs and documents that they were able to obtain. A lot of it through the Beloit Historical Society, looking through old archives to find all of that. The Beloit Inn was completely redone with the industrial theme. Very, very unique boutique hotel. I was told by Hendricks Commercial Properties they've got another one of these they're going to build in another community. If that works out, they may try to build more of these. It's a very, very unique property. We get lots of compliments and lots of accolades from people who stay there, from visitors to the community. More shoreline work. This was Rock River. Again, updates and upgrades to the shoreline to stabilize it. We certainly don't have a wide riverfront park system. We want to protect as much of that as possible. In the top photo, you can see where the erosion has come back. The tree is actually sticking out in the water in that one photograph, and of course it's dead. And then, of course, once the restoration is done, the trees are protected along the shoreline. The historic downtown district, lots of neat stuff going on. This is the La Casa Grande banquet facility, which opened in 2005. Believe it or not, 10 years ago already. It's part of the patio area in the back. The Heritage View building, another joint Hendricks City of Beloit project, opened in 2007. Regal Beloit expands their corporate headquarters here. Properties on Broad and Pleasant. This is the block that was acquired by the city using the TIP district for the relocation of Ace Hardware, and there's a photograph of the new block and the new store and what that looks like today, plus having a nationally recognized name retailer in the city center downtown area. This is another project, the old Gales Auto project. This was a huge brownfield site, and you can see the trucks working in there. They were removing tanks, cleaning up the old oil residue, and cleaning that all out. And you notice the old granary building in the background there. That's since been acquired by the city. This whole area has been cleaned up. This is the removal of the parking deck, which certainly was a major eyesore in the center of the city. That was removed. We had a grant to do much of that work. Ironworks Campus, 2006, new signage, the new parking lots being installed to support this development. And of course, the building renovations were already started, and those continued to this day. And they're still working over there, updating those properties, and we have more shots of that coming in. The Vision Beloit facility, this was another Beloit 2020 initiative, working in conjunction with Hendricks Commercial Properties and the City of Beloit. Beloit 2020 raised most of the money for this project, created kind of a microcosm of the City of Beloit, showing the urban renaissance and the changes and improvements that have taken place in the city in the last Actually, now it'll be 25 years since the process actually first began. And this is still available, of course, still used a lot for meetings and special events in the heart of the community. St. Paul, one of several streets that was redone, again using TIP district proceeds before the expenditure period closed. We tried to get all of the infrastructure in the downtown area upgraded. This is the shot of the Ace Hardware store that opened in 2008. This was still in restoration. The final landscaping and stuff isn't quite completed, but this replaced the block that was removed. Mill Street, Water Street realignment, a massive project around City Hall and the River Bend area, upgraded the parking lots here, relocated the street. Obviously, we ended up putting the transit facility in this location as well, and that was done in 2008, 2009. New wayfaring signs throughout the city were put in 2008 to help guide visitors to important destinations. Facade renovation at Domenico's. This was a major project, was ongoing for 3 or 4 years, produced an incredible result. Both the inside and the outside are absolutely world class. 2008, we finished all of these public avenue street enhancements. This was to support the Vision Beloit facility, which is the building to the left there, of course. And we put in these decorative accoutrements to make this a nice area for people coming in. We want to make that good first impression when they're coming in to visit the city of Beloit. 2009, the facade renovation was completed on this building on Pleasant Street. This was another one of the older buildings that at one time had been slated for removal, and we managed to end up saving it. One of the owners that had inherited the building took an interest and was into historic preservation and ended up doing a really nice job, put this building back in good condition. Hopefully it'll be serviceable for many decades to come. More street work in the city. This one happens to be Pleasant Street. The canoe, John Rose Canoe and Kayak Launch. This was an idea that arose from a need to reuse the western bank of the Rock River in downtown Beloit after the parking deck was removed. And we came up with the idea of creating another activity generator, putting in the canoe and kayak launch, which does bring people downtown, particularly on the weekends during the summer months. And you can see the landscaping around it. It was done to the same high-quality design standard you see throughout the city of Beloit. And for a long time, there was actually a kayak company there that used the launch for their business. They've since moved on, been replaced by the bicycle company. A Hendricks Center for the Arts building was vacated when the library relocated. Initially, Ken and later Diane Hendricks had committed to take the building, to remodel it to the college's specifications, donate it to the college so they could use it for their performing arts programs. Obviously, they did their usual excellent job. The Transit Center, this was down, you can see the old water tower there, down across from the Mill Street area, and this was dedicated in 2010. 300 block of State Street, that was redone in 2011 using brick pavers. The company was a specialized subcontractor that came in on the project. They actually do this for a living, travel all over the country installing brick pavers. As you can see, they did a good job. Obviously, the streets held up well. The gantry, another one of the TIF projects, was done with TIF and funding and special, as well as some private contributions, was completed in the fall of 2011. More shoreline stabilization photographs, again showing part of the wall, and then this was at River Bend, showing part of the new wall and the landscaping restoration around it. 615 Club 2012, showing the addition, expansion of this longtime downtown business. It's actually a landmark in the city center. A West Grand parking lot reconstruction, again done using TIP increment while the TIP district was still active to upgrade this parking lot, make it more serviceable. Colby Street reconstruction, also done before the TIP expenditure period closed. Hendricks Commercial Properties, again doing a joint public-private partnership with the city. They acquired the Farmers Wagner's building and the adjacent structures to make way for the Phoenix project. This photograph shows them at the time that demolition was underway. The old structures were being removed on East Grand Avenue. Of course, we see what replaced it with the new Phoenix building, which, by the way, now is almost 100% occupied. There are only one or two of the residential apartments that are not leased, and all of the ground floor space, I believe all the ground floor space has now been leased. There's going to be a total of 3 restaurants or food service type businesses that will be going in there, and they'll be contributing to the very successful cluster of restaurants that we have in City Center Beloit. The Mill Street parking lot, that was also done in 2013. First National Bank, a major facade renovation and upgrade. This is Rival Sports Bar and Grill. That went through bankruptcy, was purchased by a local business person. They did a great job remodeling inside and out. And as we noted earlier in this agenda, that's going to be reopening tomorrow, I believe, with a new owner. Northwoods Premiums was one of 3 downtown businesses that resulted from the farmers market, people that were coming here on the weekends, getting such a warm reception, they decided to locate permanent businesses in downtown. They've done extremely well, gotten a great reputation with individuals and businesses alike throughout the area. Monahan and Johnson moved their law firms back into the heart of the city, their law firm, back into the heart of the city in this beautiful old Art Deco building at State and Grand. Tin Dog Records opens in 2014. Domino's Pizza opens on Park Avenue, an old building again, set vacant for several years during the Great Recession, was put back in use. Grand Avenue Pub, very nice restaurant on the west side of the city, also opened, did some upgrades on one of the old buildings in that area, and they've moved in there, been doing extremely well. The Water Tower District, former OP building at Fairbanks, along with many of their old buildings, converted by Hendricks or ABC for their various companies. This one happens to be American Construction Materials back in 2006. The former Beloit Mall, another Hendricks project, purchased the dead mall, done a great job of totally reinvigorating the mall, bringing in mostly institutional uses, lots of colleges, the public schools are in there. There are also lots of offices. Of course, the new Beloit Library is on the far east end of the mall. And the only remaining elevation that hasn't been upgraded is the north elevation where the old coal store is, and that's scheduled for this coming spring and summer to have that all rebuilt. The library, you remember the project time and effort the city put in to getting that done, getting the plans done right, and creating a very, very high quality facility. The utilizations in the building skyrocketed immediately after we opened, and it's pretty much stayed up there ever since. So that's been very, very successful. 2012, the landscape improvements at the Eclipse Center. Again, this was part of the upgrades that were done by Hendrick Commercial Properties. They removed an old driveway, put in some landscaping and a walkway, and put in a very, very beautiful corner treatment there that highlights the entire Eclipse Center and certainly complements the city's improvements to our entry on the other side of the street. 2013, the new Associated Bank building opens. Turtle Creek District, Walgreens opens the new store at Park and Broad Street. The Farmer Bear property, which was another major brownfield site in the city, was cleaned, and the State Line Prairie restoration was put into that site. Continues the city's long-term now plan of acquiring and bringing Greenbelt open space into the public domain along our major waterways. And we own a lot of the land along Turtle Creek, have a lot of recreation trails for hiking, cross-country skiing in the winter, snowshoeing, and also, of course, most of the land along the Rock River. So that's been acquired for environmental purposes, shoreline stabilization, protection of water quality, as well as having recreation space right in the heart of the community. Also makes a great home for deer, and they love eating all of our plants and evergreens and anything else that they can find. So they're also flourishing with all of those green belts. This was the Clark Station on Broad Street, 2010. Again, bought some vacant lots that were there, substantially expanded the business, and they've been doing extremely well. The Shore Drive District up in the northwest corner, on the west side of the river, Rock Bar and Grill, believe it or not, it's been 10 years now since that project. That was another public-private partnership involving the city and a private developer. Maple Avenue was completed with a new boulevard, decorative lighting, and that cleared out a substandard area as well and created some green belt over that along the west side of the river. Fairbanks Flats, probably the biggest single file that we've accumulated in my tenure as the city manager, was the effort and the work that took some 6-7 years to finally get a viable developer to redo the Fairbanks Flats. Those were redone, occupied. As far as I know, they're still running near full occupancy, and that's been a very, very successful repurposing of a really, really old and property that was very, very badly deteriorated. In fact, a lot of the walls themselves had to be replaced. Virtually all the floors, ceilings, almost anything of wood had to be removed from the building and replaced. So this was one of the most extensive building rehab projects, certainly in the city's modern history. 2010 and 11, we did the public housing units. This gives you a flavor for how they were done. We upgraded the aesthetic on the exteriors, make them a complement to the neighborhoods in which they're located. Did a Spartan but very good quality interior renovation, and of course we weatherproofed all of these old buildings to cut energy costs. This was phase 2. Much of this was focused on the Parker Bluff. We put in some row houses to replace some of the scattered single-family stuff that we ultimately will sell. As you know, we ended up using a lot of that now for project-based Section 8 because the market isn't conducive to selling a lot of homes, but eventually those will be sold off. Turtle Creek Bike Path was completed going off to the east there, linking more parks together. Fairbanks Flats, Shore Drive neighborhood group came together and did this plaque really recognizing Fairbanks Flats, and this obviously will be a permanent plaque located on the site to commemorate the unique history of that industrial housing neighborhood, worker housing. This is a high school district. We wanted to highlight here the $70 million that the residents of Beloit allowed the school district to raise to rebuild their facilities. Just a couple of the projects are shown here. The new, really world-class, second largest swimming pool in the state, and then the Todd Elementary School. Of course, most of the other elementary schools that are being kept by the district were also expanded, remodeled. The new Fruzen Intermediate School is pretty far along. There's a dedication scheduled in June for that, and it'll be occupied this August when the kids come back to school, and that will finish the school's massive facility renovation and reutilization plan. And some of the older buildings have been sold already. We understand others are in process, so it's worked well for the district being able to dispose of the surplus buildings once this project was completed. These are just some of the other things the school district has done. Our Career Tech Ed program is by far the leading program in the state of Wisconsin. You're just seeing a few of the things in terms of the welding equipment, advanced manufacturing machines, all brand new. The school district actually went to the industry in the community, put together an advisory committee, and bought the machines that were recommended that would train these students so they could come out of high school, and if they don't want to go on to college or the service or whatever, that they could go right into the workplace and be trained to be able to get good paying industrial jobs. Another picture of the Fruzen Intermediate School. A lot more has been done since that photograph was taken. New cardio fitness workout room at the school. This is where the old pool used to be. And of course the tennis courts that were built on the south end of the high school. That was also completed in 2014. So the school district certainly has stepped up in terms of redoing their infrastructure to keep pace with what else has been happening in the city. This is the Ironworks District. This is a smaller area where the old Beloit Corp campus was located. You can get a flavor here. If you haven't been over there of late, you should go take a look and see how much work has been done. It's absolutely incredible. This entire industrial complex has all been rebuilt, facade renovations, massive interior upgrades, a lot of historic loft-looking appearance, a lot of exposed brick, wood beams, neat old doors, some really nice stuff. This happens to be the new rent-a-car place. It was opened back in 2007. Facade renovations, First American Credit Union, the CVS Pharmacy, new business. Again, more work on the facades and the buildings. This is the one on the old Corp headquarters where they actually stained the brick, which was an incredible process to watch. Tilly's Pizza, another landmark business in the city of Beloit, completely rebuilt, new building. Businesses that have opened in the ironworks, stainless tank and equipment, actually been there a number of years, as has American Aluminum Extrusion. Universal AET came in around this time period, 2012, 2013. Comply 365, Aqua Innovations, AccuLinks is in the new building on the south end of the campus. You can see some of their office space there, and you get a flavor for why the Ironworks campus has gotten so popular to these contemporary high-tech companies, because they offer the amenities, they've got the decor, and the type of office space that creative workers and younger people really enjoy. And so they've done a great job of picking up high-tech companies, and they've actually created, along with a few other firms that are in the city, a pretty significant high-tech cluster here in the city of Beloit. That's the college district. The college has also been a major player and partner, from cooperating and working with Beloit 2020 to spending a lot of money investing in the city center. This is the science building, including the interior atrium. This is the power plant project. Many of you have heard or read about this. Probably a couple years away from seeing construction start, but a lot of work has already been done. A lot of design plans have been completed, and this would be a new indoor athletic complex, health club, student union, and the north end would contain some new indoor exercise and workout space that would be used by the sports teams year-round. So again, this will be a major world-class facility coming to the college, which helps them with recruiting and retaining students. And of course, it's another major, very significant repurposing of one of the grand old buildings in the city of Beloit. So it also has the impact of preserving those historic buildings, which are so important to the city's heritage. So this is a great win-win project. Blackhawk Business District, most of this you're going to see is down near the border or in South Beloit. The Wheeler Bridge, actually scheduled to be redone in 2015. The first phase of bike path connecting the city of Beloit, going south across the creek and connecting into the South Beloit, is scheduled to be done this year. I don't have an update from South Beloit as to exactly when construction will begin. This is the confluence plan that many of you have been reading about, seeing in the papers. Most of this, all of this is located in the city of South Beloit in Illinois. And you can see on the north end of the photograph, that's Sherlin Avenue, and our River Bend area with the extended river walk is immediately in that area and would tie into this area in South Beloit. And I won't go into all the details. Many of you have been to these briefing sessions, but there's some pretty significant improvements and facilities that would be located in this park, which would complement the entire state line area, of course. This is another shot of it from a little lower level. And if anyone's interested in that, if you contact the city of South Beloit, I'm sure they've got the map boards and stuff over there. You can get more information. So that concludes our update. That's a kind of a fast run through of public infrastructure and private investment in the city center over the past 10 years. If you've got any questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Are there any questions?
Not. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Item 11 is reports from boards and city officers. 11A.
A resolution authorizing the Public Works Department to enter into a cooperative agreement with the National Weather Service of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to implement a river gauging system on Turtle Creek.
Mr. Boyson.
This agreement provides for a cooperative effort with the National Weather Service to install and operate an automated river gauging station on Turtle Creek. Turtle Creek flows through the city of Beloit and is susceptible to high flow events and can potentially create hazardous conditions. The National Weather Service is willing to incorporate this proposed monitoring site in this sensitive area of the city in a regional monitoring system that they currently maintain in the Rock County area, enabling more precise flood forecasts and providing more timely and precise flood warnings. Timely, accurate advance warning of the rising flood waters could give the city staff more time to coordinate efforts to protect citizens and property and infrastructure. The city will provide and maintain the equipment used to monitor and transmit the creek levels. The National Weather Service would collect and disseminate the resulting information, incorporating it into their system with web records of trends and current conditions, and they're also looking into incorporating into a new system that they're now developing in our area for actually projecting future peaks. So they'll take weather and rain data in the tributary area and monitor it with, match it with flood profiles and actually predict, if it all works out, but this is what they're working towards, that it'll peak in about 14 hours, and the peak will be approximately maybe 1.5 feet higher than it is. Things of that nature that provide a great level of detail beyond what we've historically had available to us. So the Public Works Department recommends that the council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into the cooperative agreement with the National Weather Service. City of Beloit would make an in-kind contribution of $7,813. Funds are made available through the Water Resource Division Stormwater Utility Budget.
Thank you. Are there questions? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. This does look like a wonderful protective warning system for us. I just wanted to just confirm that besides the 7,800, I noticed in the agreement that we're responsible for any ongoing maintenance. Do you foresee any excessive cost for that, or do you think it's pretty nominal?
This will be pretty nominal, pretty minor. We think it'll be several $100s per year, probably, possibly even less if nothing needs to be repaired.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilor Kincaid.
How far upstream will you be going from the confluence area?
Oh, this actual location that we've talked to the Weather Service about is actually on the Broad Street Bridge, so that seems to be the optimal location.
One location, okay.
That was an area that the Highway 51, I think it is there, Broad Street was actually overtopped in the 2013 summer event, and has some potential for sensitivity that would be particularly beneficial to have this type of monitoring at.
Will this $7,800 fund some efforts by staff?
They have an estimate for some staff installation. They estimate a modest amount for the physical installation. And our discussion with them is that we might actually then order it and pay for it. We might actually have it delivered to them, and they would actually, they've talked about possibly even assembling the unit, and then we would do the mounting. So it'll be a modest amount of in-house activity in that regard.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, or is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Moved by Haynes, second by Kincaid. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved, 7-0. 11B.
A resolution accepting a Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources urban non-point source water pollution abatement and stormwater management grant and amending the 2015 stormwater operating budget.
Mr. Boyson.
The City of Beloit has received a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to upgrade or update our stormwater management plan in accordance with requirements of our current Division of Natural Resource stormwater discharge permit. The City of Beloit is required to update the stormwater management plan pursuant to the applicable rules and regulations. The grant would cover 60% of these required costs up to an amount of $72,720. The grant does require a local match of 40%, which would be $48,480. The funds to cover the local share are available in the approved stormwater operating budget. A budget amendment is necessary to show the grant revenues being expended. The Engineering Division has recommended acceptance of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Urban Non-Point Source Water Pollution Abatement and Stormwater Management Grant of $72,720 and approving the budget amendment, which is incorporated into the resolution to expend the funds. The local funds are available in the 2015 Stormwater Operating Budget. The budget amendment authorizes the expenditure of the grant funds.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Mr. Boyson, I'm sorry. I realized that I failed to email Harry with my question, and I apologize for that. I don't mean to catch you off guard. But I wanted to ask, so I know the study is looking at options for how we can address our TMDL compliance, our total maximum daily loads. So this $72,000 is paying for a consultant to come in and look at what we're currently doing and what we can do differently.
It would be a consultant study.
Okay.
And this particular consultant is already very familiar, the selected consultant who done an RFP procedure. So we are zeroing in on a consultant that did the initial study that we currently have. That study was utilized to obtain compliance with current regulations. Now the update would take us forward and bring us provide a required plan that's a mandate of the TMDL, and the city's stormwater management permit was just reissued in the past year, and that created some new updated regulations, and so this would bring us into compliance with these new regulations.
So besides just the report being required by the state, in effect, can we expect to see some recommendations that will come to council about
Yes.
changes that need to be made or equipment that needs to be purchased?
Well, the particular mandate right now is that we must compile a plan, and so that'll be accomplished during this stormwater management permit period, which I believe is 4 years. So that we're trying to get going and do it quickly, but it's required that we complete it before the end of the permit period. Almost for sure, there's going to be, it'll certainly identify recommendations of most cost-effective means of reaching the new criteria. And then I think everyone's expectation is when they get all these reports, they're then going to mandate some degree of implementation, but that wouldn't necessarily be something that we'd be bringing quickly to the council, but in the years ahead, certainly those cost-effective methods of meeting these new criteria are almost certainly going to be moving forward to construction.
Okay. Will this report be shared with us as a body?
Oh, certainly. I suspect we could probably place it on the web just for general reference.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Kincaid.
Will the program result in some regulatory changes?
Well, the study itself is in compliance with new regulatory requirements. So it's meeting targets that have been identified. And as I understand it, there's not currently compliance deadlines, but there is a deadline for identifying the cost-effective method of achieving these new higher levels of water quality.
Yeah, I just wondered, because you referenced standards.
Yes.
And those convert to regulatory changes, policy changes.
They are, and they're in the TMDL regulations that were referenced earlier. So those total maximum daily load studies that have been adopted for the Rock River and Turtle Creek are basically standards that currently exist. And then these would be sort of retroactive modifications of existing conditions to try to then, we must identify the cost-effective means of achieving those standards of the TMDL.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions, or is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Moved by Lupke, second by Kincaid. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0. Item 12 is adjournment. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Hendrick, second by DeForest. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned at 8:27 p.m.